My girlfriend's $5,000 allowance wasn't enough, so she secretly opened 5 credit cards in my name. I found out. I paid them all off and then reported the fraud to credit bureaus. Now she is facing legal charges. I, 32 male, am, or I guess was, what you'd call financially comfortable. Not mega yacht rich, but I do well enough that I don't check price tags at the grocery store. For the last 2 years, I've been with Angela, 28. She was vibrant, fun, and made my world feel bigger. When she moved in with me about a year ago, we had a talk about finances. She was working a part-time job she didn't love, so I offered to help. We agreed on a $5,000 monthly allowance that went into her personal account. It was for her to use on whatever she wanted: clothes, lunches with friends, hobbies. No strings attached. It was to free her up to figure out what she wanted to do long-term, or so I thought. 2 weeks ago, I was reviewing my credit report, something I do quarterly. It's usually boring. A mortgage, 2 credit cards I pay off every month, a car loan, standard stuff. But this time, there were 5 other accounts. 5 credit cards I had never seen before, all opened within the last 8 months. My heart didn't race. It just sort of stopped. It felt like plunging into ice water. My hands started to shake, a tremor I couldn't control. The total outstanding balance across all 5 cards was $78,349.17. My first instinct was a hot flash of rage. The urge to smash my laptop to find her and scream was overwhelming, but then a strange, cold calm washed over the anger. A shouting match felt beneath the level of this betrayal. This was calculated. This required precision. I didn't confront her. Instead, I spent the entire night on the couch, the glow of my laptop screen burning into my retinas. I did a deep dive. All 5 cards were paperless, with statements going to a newly created email address. The mailing address on file was a P.O. box a few towns over. She'd clearly put thought into this. I logged into each account, my stomach churning as I documented everything. The transaction histories were a roadmap of a life I wasn't part of. Brunches at places I'd never heard of, weekend trips with her girlfriends to spa resorts, and a truly staggering amount of purchases from designer boutiques. By morning, I had a full dossier. Spreadsheets, timelines, every statement downloaded and saved to a secure drive. The sun came up and I hadn't slept. I felt hollowed out, vibrating with a mixture of grief and fury. I waited for her to get home from her yoga class. When she walked in, flushed and smiling, the sight of her made me feel physically ill. "Hey you," she said, leaning down to kiss me. I pulled back. My voice came out low and tight, devoid of any warmth. "We need to talk." I gestured to the laptop on the coffee table, which was open to one of the credit card statements. Her smile faltered. She walked over, her eyes scanning the screen. I saw the exact moment the recognition hit. She went pale. She didn't gasp. She just froze, her mind clearly racing for an exit strategy. "Jonathan," she started, her voice a whisper. "Okay, look, it's not what you think." "Then what is it, Angela?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. "What is the version of this where you haven't been stealing from me for 8 months?" "It's not stealing," she snapped, her fear turning to defensiveness. "It was just a buffer. Things are expensive. I was going to tell you. I just didn't want to bother you." Didn't want to bother me. The sheer, delusional justification of it was breathtaking. There was no apology. Just the assumption that my financial identity was a resource for her to tap. And the only mistake she made was getting caught. "Pack your things," I said. That's when the tears started, but they felt like a performance. "What? No. Jonathan, you can't be serious. It was a mistake." "It wasn't a mistake," I said, my voice finally cracking with the anger I'd been suppressing. "It was a plan. You opened a P.O. box. You used my social security number. This was deliberate." She followed me as I walked to the bedroom and pulled out her suitcases. "You're throwing away 2 years over some stupid money the credit card companies will just write off anyway." "This isn't about the money anymore," I said, placing the suitcases on the bed. "It's about the fraud. Get your things and get out." She packed, a whirlwind of angry texts and hushed phone calls. As she dragged her last suitcase to the door, she turned to me. "You're going to regret this. I gave you the best years of my life." Then she was gone. I'm sitting here now, in the quiet of my apartment, staring at this mountain of digital evidence. The violation feels like a sickness in my bones. I don't know every step I'm going to take yet, but I know one thing for sure. I am not going to be the one who absorbs this. Update 1. First off, thanks for the comments and DMs. The support has been grounding. Many of you shared your own stories and urged me to be methodical. It helped quiet the chaotic rage and focus my energy. The last 2 weeks have been a descent into bureaucratic hell, but a necessary one. The moment Angela left, I put a freeze on my credit with all 3 bureaus. That was the easy part. The hard part was tackling the fraud itself. My life became a blur of hold music and skeptical voices. I had to contact the fraud departments of 5 different credit card companies. Each one was its own unique nightmare. I'd spend 45 minutes navigating an automated phone tree, only to be connected to an agent who sounded like they were reading from a script in a wind tunnel. Sir, are you sure you didn't authorize these charges? Sir, has your partner perhaps used the card without your knowledge? I had to repeat the story over and over, my voice getting flatter and more robotic each time. No, I did not authorize it. Yes, I know who did it. No, she did not have my permission. I filled out stacks of fraud affidavits, had them notarized, and sent them via certified mail. It was a full-time job. Next, I filed a police report. Just as some of you predicted, the officer at the front desk was initially dismissive. Sounds like a bad breakup, sir, he said, barely looking up. You should probably sort it out between yourselves. The cold fury returned. I took a steadying breath. With all due respect, officer, I said, my voice firm. My social security number was used to open 5 lines of credit without my consent. The mail was diverted to a fraudulent P.O. box. That is a felony, not a domestic dispute. I have compiled all the evidence. I slid the thick folder across the counter. He finally looked at me, then at the folder. He sighed and picked up his phone. I'll see if a detective is available. I spent 2 hours with a detective who, thankfully, took it seriously. I walked him through my spreadsheet, the statements, the P.O. box address. He took my evidence and told me it was a strong case, but not to expect a quick resolution. Angela, meanwhile, has started her campaign. At first, the texts were pleading. Angela, can we please just talk? I miss you. I made a huge mistake. Then, when the fraud investigations began and the accounts were frozen, her tone shifted. They closed the cards. Jonathan, what did you do? My phone is getting all these alerts. You're ruining my credit. The irony of her being worried about her credit was not lost on me. Then last night, her mother Helen called. Jonathan, dear, she started, her voice syrupy. I think this has all gone too far. Angela is a mess. We can figure out a way to pay you back, a little bit each month. There's no need to involve the police in a private family matter. Helen, this stopped being a family matter when Angela decided to commit multiple felonies in my name. Don't be so dramatic, she huffed. You have to think about her reputation, her future. A young woman can't have this sort of thing following her around. You have to stop this. It's the right thing to do. I was tired, I was stressed out and running on fumes. The right thing to do was not to steal my identity. I'm handling it. Goodbye, Helen. I hung up, my hand trembling slightly. This is so much harder than I thought it would be. It's a war of attrition, but I'm not giving up. Update 2, it's been a long, grinding 4 months. I've learned more about the inner workings of fraud departments and the legal system than I ever wanted to. But there's finally some light. First, the credit cards. After endless follow-ups, all 5 companies finally concluded their investigations. Every single fraudulent charge has been removed, the accounts closed, and letters sent confirming that I am not responsible for the debt. The day I got the last letter, I felt a weight lift that I didn't even realize I was still carrying. My credit report is finally clean. That battle is won. The legal battle is just heating up. The detective did his job. He got security footage of Angela using the cards. He got the P.O. box application with her signature and driver's license copy. He got the IP logs for the online applications, tracing them back to my home network. The evidence is, in his words, a slam dunk. The DA's office agreed and officially pressed charges last month. That's when the real desperation tactics began. Angela launched a full-scale smear campaign. The story she's spinning to mutual friends is that I was a controlling abuser, that the allowance was a leash, and that she opened the cards to squirrel away an escape fund. She claims that when I found out she was planning to leave me, I flew into a rage and fabricated this whole fraud story to punish her. I've lost friends over it. It's been brutal and isolating. Then came the call from her father, Larry. He's a man who has clearly navigated his entire life by either writing checks or making threats. He skipped the pleasantries. "Jonathan," he said, his voice a low growl, "this has gone on long enough. You need to call off your dogs." "These aren't my dogs, Larry. This is the justice system." He actually laughed. "Justice? Let me explain how this works. The credit card companies ate the loss. You didn't lose a dime. They have insurance for this stuff. It's a rounding error for them. Nobody is hurt here except my daughter. So what is this really about? Your bruised ego. It's pathetic." I stayed silent. "I'm going to make you an offer," he continued, his tone shifting to that of a man closing a deal. "Drop the charges. Sign a document saying it was all a misunderstanding. In return, I'll write you a check for $25,000 for your headache. You get a little something, Angela gets to move on with her life, and this all goes away." This was it. The moment where he thought his money and power would make the problem vanish. The assumption that my principles were for sale. "Larry," I said, and my voice was perfectly steady. "Let me be perfectly clear. Your daughter committed a crime. Not against a faceless bank, but against me. She violated my trust and my identity. The fact that I'm not financially ruined doesn't change the nature of the crime. This isn't a negotiation. There is no price you can put on this. I will see it through to the end." The silence on the other end was heavy and furious. "You're a fool," he snarled. "You have no idea what you've just started." He hung up. "I'm not a fool. I'm a man who is exhausted and stressed, but I am resolute." This was never about the money. It was about the fact that she thought she could get away with it, that her wants were more important than my rights. Her father thinks he can bully the world into compliance. They are both about to learn a very hard lesson about consequences. Final update. It's over. Finally, I'm writing this from my balcony. It's a quiet Tuesday afternoon. The legal process took 10 months longer than I ever imagined. There were delays, motions filed by Angela's expensive lawyer, and multiple continuances that frayed my last nerve. It was a war of attrition designed to wear me down and make me give up. It didn't work. The trial was scheduled to start last month. The week before, her lawyer called the DA's office. Faced with the mountain of incontrovertible evidence, Angela took a plea deal. I went to the sentencing. I needed to see the final chapter close. Angela was there with her parents. She looked hollowed out, a ghost of the vibrant woman I once knew. She wore a drab suit that hung off her frame. She wouldn't look at me. Her parents stared at me with pure, unadulterated hatred. The judge was a no-nonsense woman who had clearly read every page of the file. She was not impressed. "Miss Du Bois," the judge said, her voice echoing slightly in the quiet courtroom. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was a sustained, methodical, and profoundly selfish deception against a person who trusted you. The argument that no one got hurt because the banks absorbed the debt is offensive. Fraud is not a victimless crime. It costs everyone. Then she delivered the sentence. 5 years of formal probation. Any misstep and she faces jail time, a permanent felony record. This was the anvil. The life she wanted, the one built on easy access and a flawless image, is now functionally impossible. It will be on every job application, every apartment rental application, for the rest of her life. Court-ordered restitution to be paid to the 5 credit card companies. The total amount, $78,349.17. It's not my money, but the judgment ensures she is legally on the hook for every single dollar she stole. 1,000 hours of community service and mandatory financial counseling. Helen, her mother, let out a choked sob. Larry just sat there, rigid, his face pale. For the first time, he looked like a man who had encountered a problem his money couldn't solve. Angela just stared blankly ahead as her future was read aloud. The aftermath has been a slow recovery. My life is back to normal on the surface, but the ordeal left scars. I'm more cautious now, more guarded. It's hard to trust people's motives. I've started seeing a therapist to work through the lingering anxiety and feelings of violation. The friends I lost are gone for good, and I've made my peace with that. I heard through a former mutual friend a few weeks ago that Angela is back living with her parents. She's had 3 job interviews, but was rejected from all of them once the background check came back. The reality of a felony record has set in. I don't feel triumphant. There's no joy in this, no sense of victory. There's just the grim, quiet satisfaction of seeing a destructive force brought to a halt. Justice isn't a celebration. It's a consequence. It's the sober closing of a door on a painful chapter and the weary, cautious work of making sure the locks are secure for the future. I'm finally at peace. But it's a peace I had to fight for.